I think I started that around like 12 or 13. I got really heavily enmeshed in graffiti, and it was just amazing for me. It's one of the things I love the most about my history. The graffiti life in the 90s was fun, but the gangs were pressuring us to join gangs. And a group of me and my friends, a multicultural group of us, were like one black guy, a few Mexicans, and a bunch of white boys were thrown into this gang life to join a local gang, which we're not prepared for coming from graffiti. Everybody thinks they're cool and thinks they're gangster until you actually have to get jumped to a gang. You have to start putting in work, getting these tattoos. It steamrolled really quick. Up to that point, I hadn't really been doing drugs. And I was like 21 because I had always played baseball and soccer on and off, and I had a good opportunity to do that in the future. And one night I had the bright idea after returning from the Navy to try cocaine after never smoking a cigarette, never drinking a beer. I hadn't even done none of that stuff. And my friend Chubbs talked me into smoking crack. And I listened, and crack took me down probably some of the grossest places I can honestly tell you I've ever been. Within a year of me being a pretty decent gang member, I traded everything I owned. I was selling at the time, and I traded every single thing I owned. I remember walking around the streets of the valley, sometimes barefoot, trading my own shoes for crack. I traded a Rolex one night, a Yachtmaster Rolex, a $7,000 stainless steel Rolex for a 20 piece of every gun, every piece of jewelry, everything I had accumulated by selling drugs. A brand new Cadillac. I would rent my Cadillac out to drug dealers, let them drive around and destroy my car as long as they left me in a hotel room with crack. The last day I remember calling my mom. I was barefoot. I had peed in my pants because I was more intent on smoking crack. And my mom, I had called her to pick me up because I was just having a hard time and I wanted to get off this shit. And I convinced her to buy me to get me home. And she did this. She gave me the money. I bought the crack. I get in the car. I'm smoking crack in the car with my mom, my little old mom driving this car. Just all she wants to do is get me home and safe. I'm smoking this crack and I'm paranoid out of my mind, hearing noises. A lot of people don't know, but smoking crack is only fun the very first time you do it. You could smoke crack for 30 years, but 29 years, 364 days of that will be miserable. The cocaine is notorious for just the first hit is fun, but it's an immediate addiction, a body addiction that is hard to deal with. I did this embarrassingly, and my mom would get me home, and then I'd find a way to get out of the house again and get back down to this area in the valley and buy more. And I was able to get off of cocaine by my friend Travis had the bright idea. After I got out, I went to prison once for that, a real short jump in prison, a couple years. I came home, and right before I had gone to prison, my house was shot up. I was heavily involved in, while I'm doing selling, I got involved in a gang war in the San Fernando Valley, the city of Mission Hills. Like, I'm talking blanketed with machine gunfire. A bullet hit the headboard, almost killed my mom. I go to prison right after that. My mom, while I'm in prison, moves the family out to Santa Clarita. And when I get out, I'm still trying to smoke crack. And my friend Travis convinces me to try, lo and behold, crystal meth, which is a whole nother ball game of uncomfortability that I got involved in. And I went from smoking crack to injecting crystal. All the gang stuff at that point is done. You're not able to maintain being a gang member, a drug dealer, nothing. I still dabbled in the gang stuff a little bit, enough to where that my meth addiction was getting worse and worse. I was able to maintain a little bit of normalcy on meth, unlike crack, where I was barefoot trading my stuff. On meth, I was able to maintain some sort of a normal semblance of a life in the beginning, even though I'm injecting it. I caught another prison term. I went to prison for almost 4 years, 3 years and 8 months for violence while selling and being involved in the gang life still. I was selling drugs and I did a home invasion. They said it was a robbery and a kidnapping, but it wasn't. Kidnapping is where you move someone more than 5 feet against their will. I grabbed my friend. I went to rescue my friend who was stuck in a trap house full of drugs and shit. And I grabbed her by the hair and moved her down a set of stairs, which was on camera, unbeknownst to me. I did a home invasion where I was trying to get my friend out of a place. I was trying to get myself sober at the time, which wasn't working. I smashed into this trailer with an 8-pound sledgehammer to get my friend out. I lost my cool. I went nuts. I was coming down off, which is almost sometimes worse than being on it. And I was in psychosis. I was paranoid. I was exhausted. I was trying to sleep, and she wakes me up. I race down there. I get her out of the house, and I lost my cool, and I went nuts with a sledgehammer. I broke the sinks, the toilets. I broke the refrigerators. I smashed the counters. I went Tarzan on this place. And the neighbor was sitting outside recording everything on his cameras. And he told me, "You're on camera." And I looked at him, and I'll never forget. Everything changed right there. I pointed at him with the sledgehammer, and I said, "I'll fucking kill you if you snitch on me." And he goes, "It's too late. I already called the cops. They're on their way." I jumped in my car with my friends, and I took off. I drop off my friend, and my friend says, "Oh my God," she's thankful. She says, "Don't worry. If you get arrested, I'll let them know you didn't kidnap me. You didn't kidnap me. I got your back." She goes, "Just write it out." And I went on a high-speed chase. I gave up. I pulled over finally. Cops got me. I went to jail. I fought a case in the LA County Jail. The LA County Jail is probably one of the scariest things in the world to be in the early millennium, late 90s. This just so happened to be the early millennium. I fought a case for 18, 19 months in the LA County Jail, dying every day, dying. Like there's no living in the LA County Jail. The gangs, the violence, it's always fighting. There's riots. I'm still doing drugs in the county jail. I got sentenced to about 9 years. I think they sentenced me to 9. I ended up doing about 13 off that. I turned into 13. So my total incarceration is 19 years total on 3 different prison terms. So I'm sentenced to 9. And when I got to prison, I went balls to the wall. I got heavily involved in all the white gang stuff. And I had the realization of the difference in your gang and your race, which I was confronted with in the California political system. No matter what society says and all that nice hippie stuff, that's not reality in California in the jail system. It's gang politics and it's race politics. And you will get involved the right way or there's heavy consequences. I got involved in what I thought was right, and I got very actively involved with a group. I went to war with the cops with my group. We went to war with other groups, other racial affiliations and other gangs in the prison. I finally was able to manage parole after all that time, after adding on. Hell, I got sentenced to 9. I added on about 4 years and a half of time. I come home with more PTSD from prison than the Navy. I came home with a heavy drug addiction. I was on and off crystal meth. I was completely shell shocked from that long in prison. Guys have done longer than me and they come home worse. I would do drugs in my room. I didn't want to leave. My addiction became worse and worse as I spiraled down into a black hole of just hell and addiction. I ruined my mother's home that I had moved into. Mind you, they moved us into this huge 5-bedroom home in Santa Clarita, a mansion almost compared to where I grew up. And I trashed their home. I thought I was remodeling it on speed, which was like, Matt, you've seen what tweakers do. I'm sure like you'll think you're remodeling something, but you're really just destroying it further and further. My mom was so scared of me. They kept calling the cops. They kept calling psychological evaluation team because I was losing my mind. The meth was so bad. It was turning me schizophrenic. I'd get on heroin to calm me down. And then I'd go right back on the meth and that insanity would start all over again. I got to the point where May 18th, 2000, I think, for 2 weeks prior to that, I had destroyed my mom's house. I'd physically attacked my dad because in my paranoia, I thought he was having sex with a make-believe girlfriend. One of the biggest regrets I have, I hit my dad. I speak this because it's my truth and my sponsor always says it's good to get it out. I hit my dad with a little digital alarm clock when he wasn't looking behind his head. My dad's old and I have to live with this because in my paranoia, I thought he was doing something underhanded with a girlfriend that didn't even exist. I couldn't maintain a friendship, let alone have a girlfriend at this point in my life. You know what I mean? I lived and existed to do drugs, look at pornography, and think I'm building up and fixing my mom's house. But in the process, I'm destroying $1 million home. It got so bad in my house, there's graffiti all over the walls. The staircase was torn down to wood. I ripped up the carpet. The drywall's off the wall. I shot bullet holes through the ceiling. The cops have responded to my insane behavior 3 times. The cops were so scared. The sheriff's department in Santa Clarita, God, I have to say this, I can't stand cops, but these cops did everything they could to not arrest me and give me a chance. These cops were so like, God, can you just get your shit together? Like they were just like, they did everything they could to not arrest me. They were just so sad looking at me like, but mind you, in my head, I'm cool. I'm a gangster. Don't you know? Don't you know who I am? I'm a fucking gangster. I'm cool because I didn't realize how gross and sad I looked to people. People were just like, when you're so gross and disgusting that the cops don't want to arrest you and they're like, bro, when they pull you over just to say, hey, Mohawk, when they know me by my nickname at this point, they're like, hey, get your fucking shit together. I had a son that's 23. He won't talk to me. I've lost my son. I don't like to talk about that, so I just like lightly touch on it because it's hard. But one of the cops knows my son, makes a comment here and there like, hey, bro, you know you got a son that's growing up without you. Can you just get your freaking shit together? I can't stress this enough. When the cops are pulling you over just to say get your shit together, knowing I probably have a weapon, they know I've got drugs in the car. They don't even want to arrest me. They're just so over my behavior. I like to scare people. The way I looked, I was always big. I never got that skinny. So I would like to go out in the streets and scare because of the way I look. And I would go out and rob Walmart and do all kinds of, I did some shit that would blow your mind. I'd grab a 72-inch TV and just push it out of Walmart and dare them to stop me as I loaded in my car. And after the cops repeatedly pulling me over and me living in this disgusting room and destroying my mom, beating up my dad, yelling at my parents, my dogs are scared of me. I started to pray to God, to Jesus and to Odin, please make this stop. Make it stop. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm broken. I don't know how to stop. I don't have the resources to stop. Please make this stop. I'm in like a robotic routine of sickness that I can't break. I'm not able to do it on my own. And for a couple of days at the end of this 2-week run, close to May 18th, the drugs are not working. They're just not working. I can inject a full needle, which is a lot, enough to probably kill a horse of heroin. I wasn't injecting that much heroin, but I'm doing a more than normal amount of heroin that would put someone in a coma. And I'm doing a lot of meth. On that morning of May 18th, and I'm sitting, no high. It didn't work. I did it again. I did seen shots of that would kill an elephant or it would kill any normal person. The last shot, this is my truth. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I did a shot in the vein on the top of my penis. I didn't get high. I'm sitting there. Now, mind you, after 17 shots, even my dumb drug addict ass is, wait a minute, what the fuck is happening? I'm not missing. I don't have the excuse of I'm missing. And I realized I haven't been smart enough to realize my prayers have been answered, but I'm not smart enough to realize this or to grasp the intensity and the sincerity of what was going on. I can't get high anymore. I was so happy that I remember coming to my door and I knocked on the door and I opened the door. My parents wouldn't come to the staircase in their own home. They hadn't been upstairs to their bedroom in probably 2 solid years because they were scared of me. And I opened the door and I banged on it and I came to the top of the stairs and I said, Mom, I'm crying. I said, Mom, I'm ready. Come get me, please. I'm ready. I can't do this anymore. And my mom comes up the stairs. My mom is a little old lady and she comes up the stairs and she hugs me and she says, okay, let's get you help. Let's do it. Let's do it. Are you ready? And I said, yeah, I'll do anything you want. I just don't want to be like this anymore. And you had to get put on a waiting list. Now, a lot of people think it's just, okay, I'm ready. Let's go to rehab. It doesn't work that way. You have to call, there's county funding or there's insurance. It's a process. It's like a day of phone calls. It's a day of waiting. And then it's okay, you're on a waiting list due to your insurance. If you have high dollar insurance, they put you in right away. And then it also relies on if there's beds, if they have bed space. I got put on a waiting list to go to detox, which I had to sit there for like almost 2 weeks on my mom's couch. And I started to drink alcohol because we knew that if I just drank alcohol, it would keep me sedated. I was never an alcoholic. I never really got into alcohol, but my mom would help me get a bottle of whatever whiskey I wanted for the day. I would drink it while she allowed me to come downstairs out of this dark, disgusting room, just sit on the couch in the extra living room downstairs with my dog finally. And I drank liquor every day. I say this because people don't understand. There's a growing movement that I'm against. It's called harm reduction. You don't give drug addicts needles or pipes. I don't care what America says. This is coming from someone who's been there. If you give us more drugs and more needles, we're going to continue to get high. There's no science. It's common sense. You don't enable anybody. You have to do what my mom did. You have to turn your back, close the freaking door, and say, when you're ready, I'll be here. But until you're ready, I give you nothing. You're lucky to have that room to sit in. That's all you get. So I sat on this couch. I drank some whiskey until we finally secured a spot for me in this rehab, in this detox. I went to detox and then to rehab every other Sunday, no matter where I was, down south or up north. She didn't care. Every other Sunday she was there. I get out of rehab. I get into a sober living. I do my steps. I can't stress this enough. If you're in recovery, you have to do the steps. You can't just sit idly in recovery and not do steps. You got to do the steps to understand the power of the change. I did my steps. I started sponsoring people. I go to sober living. I get out of sober living. I start managing a sober living house. And she said, now go get me a year sober and bring me something. And so I've been sober since May 18th. And I've been able to bring my mom that I'm sober and I'm out of trouble. And I said, I made my amends. I've worked in recovery home after recovery home to where I'm finally doing what I do now. But my biggest thing is I get to speak to people like this and I get to tell people about what I went through. I stress enough that moment, that last day I had, you have to have that moment. You can't get sober for your mom. You can't get sober for your girlfriend, for the kids, for the job, for the wife. 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose the family. Most people that have done drugs like I have, you cause so much damage that just because you get sober, it probably isn't going to go back. You'll get lucky enough probably to keep your kids in your life and build a relationship with them. Mind you, I'm still trying to get a relationship with my son. I'm still working on that. But most people, it's sad, but what we usually get is just our sobriety and our sanity. Sometimes that has to be enough. You get a new life and a new way of life, but a lot of that stuff that we had usually doesn't come back. And it's sad, but it's a reality. If anybody out there did like I did, we have no right asking for the wife to stay. We have no right asking for the girlfriend to come back. Anything they wanted me to do, I was willing to do because I was broke. And all I knew is I didn't want to go back there. Anywhere else is better than back there in that disgusting dark room that I turned into a pit of hell in my mom's house. Thank God it'll be 5 years on May 18th, and I'm excited about that. I say a lot like in regards to, I wouldn't change nothing because I wouldn't be who I am right now. If I didn't go through that, I would not even be talking to you. If I stayed in school, because I was pretty good in school, if I would have stuck to school, I could have been a good doctor, a good lawyer, a good, construction worker, of course. But God had other plans for me. My life had to be hard to get to where I am now to help people. Just be yourself. We all have different experiences. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to fit into trend. We all know who we are. We feel it. Be true to yourself. Follow your heart, because sometimes your heart necessarily, it might make some mistakes, but your heart has a good sense. For me, that has worked for me. I grew up with graffiti, which evolved into gangs over the years, turned into a extensive, lengthy prison history with a lot of drug addiction and some experience and recovery at the end of it. So I want to tell you, there is some light at the end of the hope, and let's enjoy a journey together.